Good evening, everyone. Guys, I don't know what other words to use in this video other than America has now entered the war in the Middle East. This is something I've been warning for, for such a long time. I've been saying that, we're seeing this divergence now between the United States and the United Kingdom, whereby the United States is going to be leading, well, not leading, the United States is going to be duty bound, I guess, to fight the war in the Middle East against Israel. And we're going to have the United Kingdom in eastern Ukraine fighting the Russians. So let me just give you a quick rundown on what's been happening in the last, literally the last 2 hours on, Friday, the 4th of October. So 2 hours ago, it came out that Joe Biden doesn't know if Netanyahu is trying to influence the US election. It's kind of a non-story because the word influence has such a wide-ranging scope of context, could really mean anything. But what I would say that, and I always say this, guys, all right, it doesn't matter about policies and politicians and pressure groups and these guys said this. I mean, on the broader spectrum, we're heading towards a global conflict of an industrial scale, but looking at these things now, you've got to understand that it's all that matters right now is the interpersonal relationships between leaders. Look at how Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu look at their interpersonal relationships when they meet each other, and that's all you need to do to understand this, what's going to happen in that region. Then also 2 hours ago, this is kind of a really big deal. The United States strikes 15 Houthi targets in Yemen, military says. And I'll put the link to this article in the description below. The US military says it has its forces carried out strikes on 15 targets today in areas of Yemen controlled by the Houthi rebels. Now, obviously, the Houthis are backed by the Iranians, probably funded by the IRGC. I say probably there, guys, because I don't have any concrete evidence that I've seen to say this other than, what's out in the mainstream. And a lot of people are saying this, but until I see a document, I'm not going to confirm anything to you guys. These actions were taken to protect freedom of navigation and make international waters safer and more secure for US coalition and merchant vessels. They can put whatever label on this tin that they want, but the reality now is the United States has entered. For context, the Houthis are part of an Iran-aligned regional alliance, which also includes Hamas and Lebanon's Hezbollah. The reason I said they're probably funded by the IRGC is because the IRGC are the part of the Iranian military that would deal with overseas subversion, asymmetric warfare, grey warfare, black warfare, guerrilla warfare, and that sort of stuff. So it makes sense that they'd be funded by them. The reality is it doesn't matter where they're getting their paychecks because they are ultimately coming from Iran. Then we've got another article, literally less than an hour ago now, 56 minutes. The United Kingdom charters its final flight to evacuate Britons from Lebanon. So, this is kind of a last hurrah to try and get Brits out of Lebanon. These were charter flights put on by the British government, as I understand it. And these are to evacuate British citizens from that location. Now, this happens only in times of absolute emergency. So behind the scenes, behind the pomp and the circus that is geopolitics, you will have people in the corridors of power that are talking to each other. And you'll have people in the Israeli corridors and people in the British corridors. And the phrase corridors of power, where that comes from is the real decisions don't get made in the briefing rooms and in the meeting rooms. That's for the amateurs, that's for the children. The grown-ups are out, and that's for the press. The grown-ups are actually, and I know because I used to do it, the grown-ups are actually outside those rooms and they're talking to each other. So, for example, if I wanted funding for a project, I would find whatever counterpart was on the other side of these two people meeting. Because when Netanyahu goes and meets Biden or whatever, they will have an entourage that goes with them. They will have a defense guy. They will have a media guy. They'll have a culture. They'll have an entourage, and it's those entourages that talk to each other. It's those entourages that are in the corridors, and that's where the term corridors of power comes from. Because the decisions are not made in the meetings, and then when the doors open and all the press have taken their photos and everybody's everybody's recorded what was said in the meeting. Whoever, Netanyahu, Biden, whoever comes out, they'll come out, and whoever goes up to them and says, right, Joe, this is so, this is this guy, we need funding, we've already okayed it, is that good? And he'll say, yes. I've never known a situation where they say no, because these people are trusted, and these people are the people who run the show. So that's where the phrase corridors of power comes from. So in these corridors of power, when you have these last charter flights, that is because people in these corridors of power, they talk to each other and they say, right, the British guy says to the Israeli guy, and these guys know each other, they're friends, they've probably been to parties together. And it's really key that all these people behind the scenes get on and have a working relationship. That's why I said from day one that David Lammy will be a disaster. So in these corridors of power, people will phone up, and somebody from Israel will have phoned up the guy from Britain and said, listen, mate, you need to get your people out. Yeah, we can hold off this long, but after whatever date, that's it. It's all going to go south. I'm thinking the date's going to be the 7th of October, which is Monday. That's going to be the 1-year anniversary. And people in that part of the world, they like to do big events on anniversaries. And I'm not saying anything's going to happen. I mean, what's happening now is, it's telling enough. We don't go back from this, guys. We really do not go back from this at all. 52 minutes ago, Netanyahu allowed millions of dollars to go to Hamas. I don't, guys, that's kind of a non-story at the moment. It really is. 24 minutes ago, Hezbollah fired 222 projectiles today, Israel says. So, guys, right now, as we're speaking, as these conflicts are escalating, as they're moving forward, he said this, this guy said this. None of that matters anymore. It's all irrelevant. What matters now is where the tanks are, where the soldiers are, and where the strong points are. That's all that matters. We're moving into a phase of human existence now where global conflict of an industrial scale, it's inevitable. I've said this so many times. If we look back at the Second World War, we always think that the Second World War started in 1939 with Adolf Hitler. Too many ports. Adolf Hitler invading Poland. If you look at the whole political spectrum, what was happening in the world at that time, you've got Japan invading Manchuria. You've got the Spanish Civil War. You've got all sorts of stuff happening behind the scenes. And I can only imagine that if you lived in those times, you would have kind of been not under the influence, but under the illusion that, everything will be fine. This won't happen. And it's never going to happen until it happens. And guess what, guys? Right now, it's happening in real time. We've got front row tickets to the end of the world, and we're watching it in HD. The main news from this now is the United States have definitely entered this conflict by striking these targets in Yemen. Remember, the Houthis, they were the ones who fired long-range missiles into Israel. The Houthis heavily support heavily support Hamas. I've no doubt they support Hezbollah as well. They're Iranian-backed. They are very much an enemy of Israel. Guys, we really are watching things degrade, degenerate, demoralize in real time. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to drink the rest of my port, and then I am going to go to bed. Anyway, guys, I'm going to back to grid, and I'll get you another video later.